Hi everyone, it's Crimson Butterfly for TogetherweR Wednesdays, which I know this is late, so I really sincerely apologise for this. Redecoration has been throwing everything out of the window. So I really apologise for not getting this up yesterday. I totally forgot all about doing it, so my sincerest apologies. So the topic of the week is socialising and food, and in my experience, a lot of social situations involve food. It can be family meals, big family meals like Christmas, or in America Thanksgiving or Easter and everything like that. Or it can be being invited out for meals, or to parties, or out for drinks, or out for coffee. And most of those situations involve food. Especially the meals, that always involves food, or parties tend to. And it can be quite overwhelming to be confronted by a lot of times foods that might be unsafe, or in large quantities of food that you may not necessarily eat regularly or eat at all, or you've been trying to avoid, so it can be quite overwhelming. I think the best ways to deal with it is, say if you're going out for a meal, and you're panicking about what is there going to be there, because maybe it's a restaurant you haven't been to, maybe you're unsure of what food is served. A lot of restaurants I have found have their menus online, which can be quite reassuring, because you can look online and find out what types of what food they serve, and you can then decide on what you wish to eat beforehand. Also, with restaurant meals, I find they are very huge portions, and most restaurants, if you ask, they will allow you to take the extra home, because they are huge meals, and a lot of times it is way more than what anyone would eat normally as a normal meal. So don't be afraid to ask to take some home, and you can have that as for lunch the next day, or anything like that. So yeah, that's a thing I find useful. So don't feel pressured that you have to eat a whole meal of that size. Obviously some restaurants have smaller portion sizes, some restaurants have huge portion sizes, so don't be afraid to just don't feel the pressure to eat everything if you feel that you physically can't eat it. So like I said, you can take, if you ask nicely, most places will let you take the excess home with you, half your meal or whatever you decide to take home, or if you don't want to do that, you can just eat until you feel satisfied. That's a good point. With parties or buffet style meals or anything like that, the best thing I've found that works for me is picking the foods that I really like, because sometimes when you go to parties and stuff and they have buffets, there's always loads and loads of food, and you feel the pressure to eat everything, even if it's stuff that you don't actually really like. You will often feel the pressure to eat everything, because everyone's always, so the best thing I find is to choose the stuff that you really like and eat that. And one of my friends, she regularly does tea parties, which have lots of cupcakes and cakes, and what she does is she encourages everyone, because there's always loads left over, so she always encourages everyone to take some home with her. So if you don't eat all the cakes at once, you can take some home with you, which I find quite useful, because it doesn't mean you're pressured to eat, because everyone always wants you to try all the cakes, and she always wants you to tell her what they taste like, which, to be honest with you, her cakes are amazing, really tasty. So sometimes that's I find that useful, because then I don't feel I have to eat or try every single cupcake in one go. So you can pick and choose. Again, like I said, I'd always choose the ones that I can that I like the best, so that I know that I will like. So she does these really nice spiced apple muffins, so I'll make sure that I have one of them. So that's always useful. I don't think I've got any other tips. I think the best thing also is to remember that to just, it's going to be overwhelming. There's going to be a lot of food that, but just try and sort of bring yourself back to the moment. Maybe if you are feeling very overwhelmed and anxious, maybe excuse yourself to the toilet and go and, maybe just give yourself a breather. Maybe some positive affirmations would be good. If you have your phone, you can sort of maybe have some images saved on there, or some words that you can just look at to try and sort of calm your anxiety down. If you are feeling very anxious about the food, don't, like I said, you will feel, not necessarily that people will pressure you into eating, because I found that doesn't necessarily happen, well, not in my case, but sometimes you can feel yourself that you feel pressured to eat. So again, only eat until you're comfortable, and like I said, if you do get very, very anxious, then excuse yourself, go to the toilet, sit down for a few minutes, maybe even go outside for a few seconds or whatever. In my case, my husband smokes, which is really, really bad, which I wish he would give up, but he doesn't. So sometimes, even though I don't smoke, I will go outside with him and just, he is quite good because he knows when I'm anxious and everything, so he can, when I go outside with him, we can talk and he can help sort of calm me down and relax, and that sometimes gives me enough time to, not feel so overwhelmed by the meal. So yes, I hope that has been somewhat useful to you. The question of the week is your favourite movies. So I said movies as in a plural because sometimes it can be very, very hard, I find, to choose my favourite movie. There isn't one movie I would say is my favourite movie. I will say I'm quite a horror person. I love horror movies, especially the more not the slasher movies. I don't find that horror as such. Sorry, you can see paint on my arm. I like the ones that are quite the Asian horror movies that tend to work more on your mind, and so a lot of my favourite movies are those type of movies. I like the Japanese Ring, the Ring 2 and the Ring O. I also like the Korean version of the Ring, which is called Ring Virus. I like those movies. I also like the Silent Hill movie because I love Silent Hill. It is one of my favourite things in the entire world, Silent Hill. This past weekend I had my friend up and we both watched all 4 Resident Evil movies back to back, which was quite awesome because I love Resident Evil as well. I was even blonde. I had a blonde wig on, which apparently everyone says really suits me. But what else? I love Lord of the Rings. I have the extended editions and the standard editions as well because I was sad and bought both of everyone. So I have the extended editions. So I sometimes spend like a whole day just watching them back to back all the way through, which is probably pretty sad of me. So there are like some other Japanese horror movie or Asian horror movies that I really like. There's one called Into the Mirror, which I really like. What else? Trying to think now. There's one called A Tale of Two Sisters, which is really good. I think that might be Japanese, but I'm not entirely sure. It could be Korean. There's a lot of Korean horror movies that I quite like, I found, but I put them all in the genre of Asian horror movies. So yes, they're really good. I think that's about it. I'll probably think of more movies that I really like, but I suppose those are my favourites. And so Sorry, my husband's just come home from work. So yes, I shall see you all next week, and hopefully I will put my video up on time. Bye!